Welcome back to our journey through the scriptures. When we last left the children of Israel, they were thriving in Egypt under the protection of Joseph. But generations have passed, and the winds of fortune are about to change. The sons of Israel, who had come to Egypt with Jacob, were fruitful and multiplied, growing into a mighty nation that filled the land. But then Joseph died, and all of his brothers, and all of that generation. A new king arose over Egypt, one who did not know Joseph or the history of how his people came to be there. Seeing the sheer number and strength of the Israelites, this new Pharaoh grew fearful. He told his people, "Behold, the people of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. We must deal wisely with them, or when war comes, they might join our enemies and fight against us." And so the oppression began. Pharaoh set taskmasters over the Israelites, afflicting them with harsh labor, forcing them to build the treasure cities of Pithom and Ramses. Their lives were made bitter with hard bondage, working in mortar and brick and toiling in the fields. Yet, the more they were afflicted, the more they multiplied and grew, to the great frustration of the Egyptians. Pharaoh's fear escalated into a horrific command. He summoned the Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, and ordered them, "When you help the Hebrew women give birth, if it is a son, you shall kill him. But if it is a daughter, she shall live." But the midwives feared God more than the king, and they let the baby boys live. When Pharaoh confronted them, they cleverly replied that the Hebrew women were so vigorous they would give birth before a midwife could even arrive, and God blessed the midwives for their courage. Serious, Pharaoh issued a decree to all his people. Every newborn Hebrew son was to be cast into the river. During this dark time, a man from the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she gave birth to a son. Seeing he was a beautiful child, she hid him for 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she wove a small ark of bulrushes, sealed it with pitch, and placed her baby inside. She set the basket among the reeds by the river's bank, while his sister stood at a distance to see what would become of him. As fate would have it, Pharaoh's own daughter came down to the river to bathe. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her servant to retrieve it. Opening it, she found the weeping baby, and her heart filled with compassion. "This is one of the Hebrews' children," she said. At that moment, the baby's sister bravely approached and asked, "Shall I go and find a Hebrew woman to nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter agreed. The girl ran and brought the baby's own mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will pay you your wages." And so the woman nursed her own son. When the child was older, she brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, for she said, "Because I drew him out of the water." Moses grew up in the splendor of the Egyptian court, but he never forgot his true heritage. One day, he went out to his brethren and saw their suffering. When he witnessed an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, he looked around, and seeing no one, he struck the Egyptian down and hid his body in the sand. The next day, he saw 2 Hebrews fighting and tried to intervene, but one of them retorted, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" Moses was terrified, realizing his deed was known. When Pharaoh heard of it, he sought to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Egypt and went to the land of Midian. There, weary from his journey, he sat down by a well. The 7 daughters of Jethro, the priest of Midian, came to draw water for their father's flock, but other shepherds came and drove them away. Moses stood up, defended them, and watered their flock. When the daughters returned home early, their father asked how it happened. They explained, "An Egyptian delivered us from the shepherds." Jethro invited this stranger to their home, and Moses agreed to live with them. In time, Jethro gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage, and she bore him a son named Gershom. Years passed, the king of Egypt died, but the bondage of the Israelites continued. Their cries of anguish rose up, and God heard their groaning. He remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. One day, while Moses was tending his father-in-law's flock, he led them to the far side of the desert, to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from within a bush. Moses looked, and the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. As Moses turned to see this incredible sight, God called to him from the bush, "Moses, Moses," and he answered, "Here I am." "Do not come any closer," God said. "Take off your sandals, For the place where you are standing is holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." At this, Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, "I have seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cry. I have come down to rescue them and bring them to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. So now, go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." But Moses was filled with doubt. "Who am I," he asked, "that I should go to Pharaoh?" God reassured him, "I will be with you." Moses then asked, "If I go to the Israelites and say, 'The God of your fathers has sent me,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' what shall I tell them?" God said to Moses, "I am that I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you." Moses was still unconvinced. What if they do not believe me or listen to me? God gave him two signs. First, he told Moses to throw his staff on the ground, and it became a snake. Then he told him to put his hand inside his cloak. When he took it out, it was leprous, white as snow. When he put it back and drew it out again, it was restored. Still, Moses protested, "O Lord, I'm not eloquent, I'm slow of speech and tongue." The Lord's anger kindled against him. "Who gave man his mouth?" God asked. "Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak, and your brother Aaron, he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and he will be your spokesman." So Moses returned to his father-in-law, received his blessing, and set out for Egypt, with his wife, his sons, and a staff of God in his hand. On the way, God met Aaron in the wilderness and sent him to Moses. Moses told Aaron everything the Lord had commanded, and together they went and gathered the elders of Israel. Aaron spoke the words of God and performed the signs, and the people believed. They bowed down and worshipped. Then Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh. They delivered the message. "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go." Pharaoh scoffed. "Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." Instead of freeing them, Pharaoh made their burdens heavier. He commanded his taskmasters, "You are no longer to supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw, but require them to make the same number of bricks as before. They are idle, that is why they are crying out." The Israelite foremen were beaten when they could not meet the quota. They confronted Moses and Aaron in despair, blaming them for making their situation worse. Moses returned to the Lord in anguish. "Lord, why have you brought this trouble on your people? Is this why you sent me? Since I spoke to Pharaoh in your name, he has done evil to this people, and you have not rescued them at all." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh." God renewed his covenant promises and sent Moses and Aaron back to the king. Aaron, who was 83, and Moses, 80, stood before Pharaoh once more. When Pharaoh demanded a miracle, Aaron threw down his staff, and it became a serpent. But Pharaoh's sorcerers did the same with their magic. And though Aaron's staff swallowed theirs, Pharaoh's heart was hardened. This began the great contest between God and the gods of Egypt. God unleashed a series of devastating plagues. First, Aaron struck the Nile, and all the water in Egypt turned to blood. The fish died, the river stank, and the Egyptians had nothing to drink. Still, Pharaoh would not listen. 7 days later, God sent a plague of frogs. They swarmed out of the river, covering the land, entering houses, bedrooms, and even ovens. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron. "Pray to the Lord to take the frogs away, and I will let the people go." But once the frogs were gone, Pharaoh hardened his heart again. Next, Aaron struck the dust of the ground, and it became swarms of lice, or gnats, that plagued the people and animals of Egypt. Pharaoh's magicians tried to replicate this, but they could not. "This is the finger of God," they admitted. But Pharaoh refused to listen. Then came swarms of flies, filling the houses of the Egyptians. But God made a distinction and spared the land of Goshen, where the Israelites lived. Pharaoh relented, but again, once the plague was gone, he went back on his word. The fifth plague was a pestilence that killed the livestock of the Egyptians, their horses, donkeys, camels, and cattle. Yet not one animal belonging to the Israelites died. Still, Pharaoh's heart remained hard. For the sixth plague, Moses threw handfuls of soot from a furnace into the air, and festering boils broke out on all the Egyptians and their animals, yet Pharaoh would not yield. Then God announced a hailstorm of unprecedented fury. He warned those who feared his word to bring their servants and livestock indoors. Then Moses stretched out his staff, and the Lord sent a devastating storm of hail and fire. It destroyed everything left in the fields, people, animals, and plants, throughout Egypt. Only in the land of Goshen was there no hail. Pharaoh confessed his sin. "The Lord is righteous, and I and my people are wicked. Pray for this to stop, and I will let you go." But as soon as the storm ceased, he hardened his heart once more. The eighth plague was a swarm of locusts, brought by an east wind. They covered the face of the earth, devouring every green thing that the hail had left. A desperate Pharaoh begged for forgiveness, and the Lord sent a strong west wind that blew the locusts into the Red Sea. But again, Pharaoh's heart was hardened. For the ninth plague, Moses stretched his hand toward the sky, and a thick, tangible darkness descended upon Egypt for 3 days. No one could see anyone else or move from their place, but the Israelites had light in their dwellings. Pharaoh called for Moses and said, "Go, serve the Lord. Even your little ones may go. Only let your flocks and herds remain." But Moses refused. "Our livestock must go with us, for we must use them to worship the Lord." But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. In a rage, Pharaoh shouted, "Get away from me. Make sure you do not see my face again. The day you see my face, you will die." And Moses replied, "You have spoken well. I will not see your face again."